Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for this week's Plein Air Painters Chicago Virtual Paintout and Critique. I'm Virginia Ferrante Iqbal, standing in for our fearless leader, Mary Long. Tonight's guest artist is Dale Popovich. Dale is an award-winning watercolorist who's been known to paint in oils. Dale has a fine art degree from the American Academy of Art in Chicago, and he has been teaching for 25 years and currently teaches at the Palette and Chisel. Welcome, Dale. Thank you so much for being here.
Actually, I've been teaching for 41 years.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Correct me. Wow. 41 years. That's a long time.
Yep, I'm 27 years old. Sometimes act like 12, but 41 years, a little over 41 years now.
Wow. Well, it would be wonderful if you could tell us a bit about your background as a painter and a teacher.
Well, as a teacher, I started about a year and a half after I graduated from the American Academy of Art. And I was there for 3 years taking the foundations class, 3 years of life drawing, a year of oil painting, and a year of watercolor, and a year of illustration. And I did some outdoor painting at that point during the summers with another instructor. I just tagged along in the class. But I ended up at the American Academy. I was a plumber for 3 years. And during that time, I lost 80% of my sight. And I ended up having brain surgery in 1974 and regained, thank God, my eyesight, which I didn't know I had back until I was in recovery. And then I had to learn how to walk and write again because I couldn't spell. I'm a lousy speller to this day, I think, because of that. But I ended up at the American Academy of Art. I wanted to do something with my hands and my eyes. So that's where I started. And a year and a half after I started, after I graduated, Irv Shapiro, the director-president, hired me, and I taught there for 22 years. And now I teach at the Palette and Chisel. I teach up in Lake Zurich at Main Street, and I was teaching at Elmhurst Art Museum until about a month ago, where I resigned my position because of the COVID virus and rescheduling of myself into different endeavors at this particular point. So it just didn't fit the thing. And also, my partner in crime, Bob Krajewski, retired. So I am now teaching the foundations course on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings at the Palette and Chisel. So, and I also will be having a one-man show August 3rd through September 4th at the McCord Gallery in Palos Park. And the reception is on the August 7th at 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, but there'll be a visual reception. I'll be going around the gallery.
A virtual.
A virtual.
Oh, virtual reception. So on the 7th of August, it'll be a virtual.
For 1 hour.
Facebook Live.
For Facebook Live,
Better.
just so the people that feel like they can't attend or don't want to because of the situation we're in, they can see it on Facebook and they'll hear about each painting, why I painted it, the subject matter itself, where I got the subject matter from. And mostly the show is all about studies. In other words, ideas that I put down on paper, like the one that I showed you behind me with the Wisconsin River. And I blow that up to a larger format and do a finish paint. So these are really, the show is about my thoughts on paper.
Do you mind holding that a little closer to the camera so we can see it? Because
I'll show you 3 of them.
And if you hear a mystery voice off in the distance,
It's my better half, Marilee, my wife.
I'm his tech.
So this was a demonstration that took about 50 minutes in total that I did at a workshop. This is the Wisconsin River, where it begins out of Lac Vieux des Aires in Vilas County, Wisconsin. It's up where we have our log cabin. And this was just kind of a fun thing. Some of these paintings I did at the workshop had no drawing in them. So I didn't allow the students to draw anything. They followed along with the patterns of light, dark, and color. And this was kind of a mystery path that I created from just value patterns. It's getting them loosened up and not have to worry about the drawing part too much, but they're drawing with their brush.
And it's a penal.
And it's a paint along, so they're following me. I do the first step, they do the first step, and so forth. And then this was down in southern Indiana, much more lighter area looking. But these are all about 50 minutes long at the most.
Popovich.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. So, did you have your show coming up, and did you want to tell about any workshops that are coming up that you have?
I have a workshop. I just had a workshop at Main Street Gallery. I have one in Brown County, Indiana, Nashville. Not the same Nashville you're in.
Oh,
I have a workshop down there August 14th and 15th. It's a Friday and Saturday.
Fridays.
My dates, I just,
Somebody's mic is on.
somebody's
Yeah.
mic.
somebody's mic is on. Everybody, please mute yourself.
And then I have another 3-day workshop at the McCord Gallery in Palos Park at the end of October, which is October 23rd, 24th, and 25th.
And don't forget that one.
And then I have another workshop up at Dillman's in Lac du Flambeau in northern Wisconsin, September 27th to October 1st. So that's right near our log cabin up there. So that's where we'll be retiring eventually.
Wonderful.
And also the virtual pre-reception on the 7th is going to be on Dale's Facebook page.
Oh,
So-
great. Okay.
That's where you can
So
see it. And
just
then
in
we're
case
gonna,
you miss it, you'll be able to still see it.
and then I'm going to edit it and throw it up on YouTube as well. And Dale's website is dalepopovich.com.
Wonderful. So, Mary Lee, thank you so much for that information and for helping us.
She's the brains of the outfit. I'm just the brush.
Okay, that's great. So did you have anything else you wanted to tell us about yourself or your painting before?
You paint landscapes.
I'm a landscape painter. I did so many still lifes and portraits when I was in college. And I primarily did portraits before I went to college. I was self-taught, which the teacher was really bad. You have to understand what I envisioned when I lost my sight, and my mind's eye went to the North Woods. So I'm looking at the colors, the textures, the denizens of the woods and the wildlife, because I do wildlife also. But it's something that I fell in love with and I will not part with as far as going off path. I love old structures, farmhouses. We had a number of abandoned homes up there at one point, farms and stuff that went defunct that I did explore as a child, and that was just like gold to me.
Wonderful. Wow. So, so we have about 24 paintings, and so there should be time for questions at the end.
Yes, definitely.
And so it would be great if everybody would save their questions to the end. And Dale, I was wondering if you could let people know what your perspective is going to be when you're looking and critiquing the paintings.
I look at it from a standpoint of the composition, the drawing. And I know a lot of people are out there as beginners, which I know when I went out the first time, where does my painting start? Where does it end? Where's the bottom? Where's the top? Which I got used to using a 2L brackets on a pole, looking through it to isolate the subject matter. But after a while, you really don't need that. But it's the drawing and the composition and the color usage. And I'm always curious, because I have previewed most of these, what colors they were using and how many. So I don't know whether you want to have them wait to the end or ask the question at the end of their particular critique.
Well, I mean, I guess we can keep it short with each person. If you want to interact with each person, that's fine, because we really only have 24 and sometimes we have as many as 40 paintings. So let's try it and see how it goes.
All right, that's fine, because that way I'm talking to the individual and I get their perspective on what they were painting and perhaps the problems that they've had with it or what they felt the success on it. And it is interesting because I'm not going to be too crucial, because you have people, this is just one spot of their life. It isn't a body of work that I'm looking at.
Right, right. So great. Yeah, if you would go ahead and share your screen, and we'll start with that painting that we had identified.
I'm assuming this is probably Chicago. Um, I like the way they got the aerial perspective going. It falls back where your lights get darker and your darks get lighter to where there's very little contrast of value in the background. I like the way that they handled the wet pavement, which is always a little bit on the difficult side. What I do have a problem with is the green shrubs in the pot off to the right, and the light pole is running a little bit too close to the edge of the painting. I would have moved it in behind the man holding the umbrella, because I'm always a great proponent of painting, not always using everything that's there, but leaving out the unimportant. It's always more important to leave out than to put in, and also not to just use what's there. Use a little bit of creativity, but your perspective is held pretty well together here. But I like the way that you handled the people, because they're just going back and back and back, and you didn't fool around with trying to get anything exact in the background. You have shapes and forms, which is very important to show. The only thing that I would question is the reflection of the buildings is not showing in the wet pavement on the left side. And only to know what they are looking at, I would have to see the photo reference they may have taken, perhaps to complete it on that day. But doing rainy days is a very difficult thing to do, and I think they did a great job. Jean, do you have anything to add?
A question is about, you said it's better remove the guy on the right to show more.
The light pole that's off to the right, I feel is a little bit too close to the edge.
All right.
I'm being nitpicky, okay? I would have moved it in a little bit more behind the man holding the umbrella on the right.
Oh, all right. All
Because
right, I agree. I agree.
it slides up the right-hand side, and your eye has a tendency of following that too fast. What's behind it is nice. I love that blue to the warm color in the background, and then back into the background again of the cooler, softer buildings in the background. But it's a minor little thing. In fact,
Yeah, it's very important. Yeah,
maybe
that was added to the design. It was not there.
okay.
Yeah. So
I have done that in the past, added things, and I realized I shouldn't have. I have a whole landfill on the south side dedicated to my name. But I feel it's a very strong painting. It's good. It's nice. It's nice and airy, and I feel like I'm getting rained on, which is the important part.
thank you. Yeah. One question.
Yes.
One of the reasons why I put that pole on the right, because I think I want to add a little vertical. And
I would have just moved it over behind the man with the umbrella, right, I guess, just alongside of his head coming up, leaving a little bit of light between his head. Just moved it over just a tad.
all right.
But, a lot of these things, when artists critique the work, not to take it personally, but sometimes these are judgment calls.
All right.
And I like everything else that you have, but I just find that the green bushes down at the bottom are a little bit too intense.
Okay.
And maybe soften them down quite a bit.
Okay.
Because you have the luminosity, you've had close value in the background to have that light that you have coming in, which is nice, because close value does help luminosity.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And this is Muriel Christensen's. Love the way you did the water. The violet shadows is a little bit too strong. When you have sand like that and so forth, the color doesn't change that much in the shadow. So you have to be careful about the cast shadow of things. Even though all your colors are bright and very vivid, which I think makes it a little bit more of a graphic approach, and there's nothing wrong with that. You have a lot of that violet. It's spotted around in kind of fragmented areas. If you could maybe have a little bit more connection with the color of the sand, would have helped. But I like the rest of it. It's pretty good.
Thank you.
Do you have any comments, Muriel?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I kind of agree with you about the shadows. I went a little bit overboard with the violet.
Yeah, when we find a color we like, and then
Yeah.
I've done it myself, we end up abusing it.
Yes.
So it's not a problem. But in a pastel, which I think you did really nice, you can.
It's oil though.
Oh, yes.
Oh, it's oil?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Looks like a pastel, dear. That's good. But it just needs to be toned down a little bit. And I think that you
Okay.
did a good piece there.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, is Nancy King-Mertz here?
I am.
You are.
Gail.
How you doing, Nancy? I love your work.
Oh, thank you. I love yours.
Thank you.
I love Casablanca lilies.
Yeah,
Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
they're absolutely beautiful, as most of your work is all the time. It's
Thank you.
your city scenes are awesome. The only thing I do question on this, and it's only one minor thing, the upper left-hand corner with that color up there,
Uh-huh.
it seems like it's out of place somewhat, not a lot, because you have the violets in there. That's a muted violet up there. I don't know whether and this is a judgment call, I don't know whether I would have gone a darker green
Okay.
up there.
Or like right in the center top.
Yes.
Okay.
But-
Push those lilies even more forward.
Push them forward more, a little bit more, even a darker gray down green up there would have been nice. And that would have not been the same down here, because all your lilies are getting different types of light on them. One's facing away, one's slightly facing away, and the other one is glowing through the light from the background, it looks like, which is very nice.
Okay.
But I love the colors you used on it.
Thanks.
I'll trade you.
That's a deal.
Oh.
So there's the one on the right. Does it look like that? It's like his tongue's hanging out too long. Do you see that?
No, it doesn't, because
Okay.
I've seen these lilies many times, and they flip-flop all over the place. They have each flower has a shape of its own, even though they're similar. But I like the way it just curls around and this comes down. I just like the way the movement is. You got a nice, strong triangle going on here. But the only thing that bothered me, and I looked at this previous, is that color that's in the upper left-hand corner.
Okay.
The upper right-hand corner where it's muted more, maybe tone it to that a little bit,
Okay.
because I feel that it's kind of fighting the lily up in there just a tad.
All right.
But other than that, your edges are good. They're close value where they need to be, and they're sharp where they need to be also. Flowers are hard to do, and you can ask anybody that does flowers off and on, but not constantly, to get the right shape and the right form, and make them look light and delicate, which you did. It's very
Yeah.
important.
Well, it was a hot day.
Oh, when have we had a cool day? I don't think we had a cool day since the beginning of May.
Yeah.
Plus our air conditioning went out last night.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dale, so much for your comments.
They're beautiful.
Thank you.
About my address to ship it to?
Do you get mail up at your cabin in the Northwoods?
Well, no, we're here in Highland, Indiana right now.
Okay.
We were up there twice this year, and we're going up a third time at the end of August. We're usually up there 6 times out of the year. 2 weeks at Christmas, which is beautiful.
Oh, I bet.
I
Okay.
love those. Those are wonderful lilies.
And he knows Casablancas are my favorite.
Yeah.
The fragrance of them is just intoxicating.
I have no idea what they smell like.
All right.
Oh, that's, yeah,
Next
Okay,
picture.
thanks.
you're welcome.
So this is Kung Hong.
Yes. Is she with us?
It's a he.
Yes,
Oh,
I am.
yeah, sorry. You can hit me when you see me. I like it. I think that the foreground could be a little bit cooler. A little bit, it's a little bit too green where it could cool down a little bit because it's a little bit too close to the trees that are out on the left. This is a watercolor, I'm assuming, yes?
Yes,
Okay. And have you ever used the toothbrush for texture?
Nope.
To spritz it on?
no,
Well, while the foreground was wet, you could have taken a little bit of toothbrush and flicked some extra color in there, and it adds a little bit of degree of depth to it, and it also adds a little bit of color without touching the paper with your brush. It kind of dissolves into a softer look to it, but a little bit cooler in the foreground. The figures is just what it should be, showing a little bit of dappled light on it. But the pine tree or the shrub that's in front of the tree that goes back on the left, I think I would have made the darks in that darker blue-green darker to push that other tree further back.
okay,
And that other little tree that's off to the right, I would have omitted completely.
okay.
It doesn't really need to be there to be true. It's nice painting though. Very good. I like the way you did the leaves up at the top here. The branch coming down over that person. But try adding a little bit of toothbrush work to flicking extra color on there, either when it's dry or when it's damp or when it's wet. And you'll get a different degree of depth in your color on the watercolor.
You can go to Dale's YouTube channel, which is Dale Popovich, and he's got several demonstrations on there, and he always uses the toothbrush.
Yes, it's my wife's toothbrush. I just clean it and put it back when I'm done.
And you know, when he uses that phthalo green, it's just.
I only use that around St. Patty's Day. But I think that you've got a real nice thing going. I love the way the figure is in shadow, and it feels like it's in shadow. It doesn't look like it's been pushed too hard. Very nice though.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And this is
Karen Koritko.
the ground. Let's start with the tree first, the structure of the tree. The tree branches are too straight. They're too perfect looking. When you have the growth of a tree, the branches move with the season, different light, and they will jog around a little bit more to create a little bit more character. I know the light's coming down from the left-hand side, but as the tree goes up and away, it's got to change a little bit of temperature. It's got to change color a little bit, but it's got to change value. So in the shadow area, it could have been a little bit more dark to punctuate the light, because you won't get your light enough if your darks aren't dark enough. But a little bit more character in the tree. Study that tree, draw it, do a delineated line drawing of different trees to get the feeling of the character of the tree. And then down below, the grass could have been in shadow a little bit more, because I'm seeing these bars of color going down. I see 1, 2, 3, and I just feel that it needed to be not divided, to kind of gradually go back. And she should have tested dry brush for the leaves a little bit more. They're a little bit too vague. So when you're dry brushing, you can mix up your color. Tap it off on a piece of paper towel and test it on dry brushing, just scraping across the top of the paper to get that, I don't know, scratchy look, if you want to call it that. But it looks like she was a little frightened to go up into the branch and over the branch just a little bit too much. Try dry brushing a little bit more. And is this person on?
Andrea, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Oh, wonderful.
I looked at this, I previewed all the paintings, but I was looking at this. This is one of those paintings that is very impressionistic, and I really like it. It's very loose, but this is one of those paintings you have to look at from a distance and it comes into focus.
Mm.
I don't know whether you were squinting down looking at it when you were painting it, but I stepped back from the painting because I looked at it in a little 2x3 or whatever. And it really has wonderful depth and it has nice feeling in it. The thing that kind of stops me dead is this darkness right in the middle here. It could have been, it's not that it shouldn't be there, but it could have been broken up a little bit more. But I like the way that it just flows back. What size is this, Andrea?
This is an 11 by 14.
Okay. This is nice. It's very loose and it's very different from the way I paint because I don't judge things by the way I paint. I judge things the way they look and how they are. The thing that I'm always looking at from students is when they're painting trees is humans have the problem of they put things in what I call farmer rows. They're equal distance. There's not any equalness within it. It's always a little bit different. Each tree is a different thickness. And you were, to me, you were very conscious of that. But I like it the way it looks. Just that one dark hole right dead center in the middle needs to be broken up a little bit more. That's the only thing I see that I would change, because otherwise you would change the whole feeling of the painting by going too far. But that one little dark hole.
Okay.
But this, when I squint down, I can just feel the light flowing down in the middle there and that orchard feeling. Very pretty. Very different, which is nice. I like the looseness of it.
Do you have any questions?
You have any questions? No.
No, not really. It was the height of day, just around noontime, and it was an interesting challenge because I wanted to study how the shadows were, which could be more striated in an orchard.
Oh,
So
yes.
I tried to dare that way.
Where was this done at? Was it like?
This is in an area in northern Michigan called the Leelanau Peninsula.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know that.
Cherry orchards, just like you're going into Door County up in
Yes,
Wisconsin.
yes.
Same idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I was up in Door County last year when they were having problems with their cherries, but their cherry trees. But this is nice. I just like it looks like a party for the eyes to me, and it works very well. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. And who's next here?
This is Deborah Aronstein or Aronstein.
Hi, I'm here.
Hello, Deborah. When you're doing buildings, don't do all the windows the same value. Try to change the value up a little more, adjust the color. And when I'm telling my students, when they're working from photographs, of course, you're not painting the photograph. You're painting a painting, which is very important, is to stray away from your subject matter just a little bit more than what's there. What is the, because I can't see it, what is the, it's water-based oil. Okay, I see it now, looking in the wrong place. How do you like water-based oils?
It's sort of all I've ever used, but I might be changing to oils in the near future. But I like it because I'm a messy person and I move around a lot. So
I'm messy too, and I have to wash my studio floor once a week. You might benefit by going to oils. You're going to get some nicer color variations, but what I'm looking at here, my first impression is I don't know where the light's coming from, whether it's in back of me, because I see no cast shadows on the building, none on the sidewalk, and it's confusing where the light is showing. Do you remember?
I can't remember, but had there been strong shadows, I think I would have put them in only because that's what I'm trying to do. But it was actually, this is on Astor Street and it's a small part of a huge building.
Yes. Yeah, Astor Street has a lot of beautiful doorways and stuff.
There's a palm tree in it, and that's a real palm tree in Chicago, by the way.
Yeah, Yep, I think I know what you're talking about. The green that's off to the right with the tree kind of leaning into the picture plane, it looks like your most intense color practically on the page. I look at the building, I look at the windows, and then my eye always goes back to that intense green that's off to the left side. So be careful where you put intensity. It should be on and around your focal point with contrast of value and most detail. And that's why I'm saying the windows are all the same in detail for the most part. So you have to vary that. Get it to one area, because we're only in focus. We can only see in focus about the size of a large juice can, and then the rest of it falls away, gets softer, less intense, no contrast of values. It goes out towards the edge. So don't try to put everything in as you study it. Do everything as you're looking at one particular point, and everything falls off a little bit more.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. And this is
Charlotte Arnold.
Charlotte. Are you here?
I'm here.
Okay, you're here. Charlotte,
Yes,
your watercolors are beautiful. They're
thank you.
Very nicely handled, very direct, looks very direct and spontaneous. The one big thing that you did wrong, I hate to tell you this, but you put a
Uh-oh.
dead center in the middle.
Oh,
You
this
never
guy.
you never want to divide your composition in half with something in the middle, vertically, horizontally, or diagonally. Now, if you would have moved that off to the right a little bit, and maybe even leaned it a little bit in and connected it with what's on the right-hand side, the little palm coming in, and then actually added maybe another little hut in the middle, or whatever those cabanas are, I think they're called.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more, one more over, and move that tree off to the right. It would have been really good. Only one more thing is that when you get to the horizon line, soften it a little bit.
Yes.
We don't see sharp edges that far back. It's going to be soft. Now the water goes from light to dark because lights get darker as they go back. But this is getting a little bit too dark and it's too hard edged. But I love the way you handle the palms. They're wonderful. Nice, loose, airy, not trying to delineate everything out of it, allowing them to run together. Very good.
Thank you.
Do you have anything that you didn't like about it? Let me ask you that.
Well, it's very hot there.
Where was it?
Punta Cana, the Dominican Republic.
Okay, you were
And
hot.
so we're sitting on the beach, and you got to work very quickly. But you're right about the horizon line there. I see that. I know that has to be soft. The water does get very dark back there, and then it comes forward. But I love your comments. Thank you.
You're welcome. But you did everything else right. Very little wrong with it, except that tree should have been, the big thing is the tree needs to move over and that horizon line needs to be soft. But I commend you painting in hot weather. You wouldn't get out there to do that.
Yeah, I live in Florida now, so I'm used to it.
Okay, come to Chicago. You'll get more humidity maybe.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So this is Robin Strand.
Robin, are you with us?
Definitely here. I'm here now.
Okay, hello. I like that you got rid of that wall of green in the back, because you had those high bushes or trees or whatever in the photo. But the background behind the sculpture, in front of the sculpture, could have been a little bit darker. And I'm looking at a line of dark that runs along the back wing there. It looks like too much of a line. It should be abbreviated up and down a little bit more abstract looking. But you could have got your darks darker down in that area that is right about the neck and the head of the, I'm trying to guess what bird that is. I don't remember.
Crane?
Crane?
It's a heron.
Heron, okay. But that could have been a little bit darker, and you could have got your background just a tad cooler and added more color to the crane sculpture itself. So more of that great blue-green verdigris on it, just to push that out a little more. Because right now, you're in most intense color here is the blue in the water and that yellow-green that's above the heron or the crane. But I'd like to see that a little bit darker here. You can tone this down a little bit because you want to show a little bit of green in that water, just a little bit more. Because that cast shadow down here in the water, reflection, could have been a little bit airier. It's a little bit too solid. Try to make that change from one point to the other, because values change as they move across or away from you. But the rest,
Okay.
watch your edges though. I'm always telling my students, you can't have really any more than 1/3 of any edge sharp, and the rest of it has to soften up either by blending it or making it a closer value, because you have a lot of your edges the same all the way across the top of the crane. So you have to be careful on that. And that will make it fall into the landscape. It's called lost and found edges in some areas, and it will pop out in other areas.
Okay, yeah.
You
I
get what?
felt like I had, trouble just making the heron pop with that color. And yeah, I wasn't real happy with the color and the light. It seems like there should be more light on the wings or something.
Well, no, when you're looking to make something lighter, did you use a lot of white on this?
Yeah, probably too much.
Go for lighter value color first and then pick up the white to lighten it a little bit, but you really want a little bit more color. If you have a lot of light, I mean bright light showing, it washes out the color. In the mid-tone areas of an object, whether it goes into shadow on your face or whatever, the light area is a little bit washed out. You don't see as much color here as you would as it falls into the shadow here. The mid-tone area is where you can push that color just before it falls into the shadow. So right in here could have been a little bit more colorful underneath the wing here and in the neck, and even up in that little bit of area there. So try to push your color in the mid-tone area before it falls off into the shadow, and that gives you a truer color base of what's there.
I don't think they see you pointing.
You don't see me?
Okay. Yeah.
But,
I'm pointing for myself then.
so, but what you could do is move the
You
cursor.
can use the cursor. Yeah, there.
Oh, there we go.
I'm not computer savvy, I told you. But this area up here, the lightness is fine, but this area up in here could have been a little bit darker, especially in here to push the head out. This area right in here, underneath, this is almost as light as what's up here. This is actually further away from the light. So this could have been more of that greenish blue look of the statue. And then underneath here, before it goes into shadow, right along that edge there, you can push that mid-tone color to be a little bit more intense, because as it goes up into the light along the top, the color will be washed out naturally. So bright light will wash the color out, but as it falls into the mid-tone, which is part of the light, but just before it goes into that core part of the shadow, push your color a little bit more, and it will flip it into the shadow nicer. And then
Okay.
down here, we need to break this up. By the way, now everybody tells me I got the cursor to work. But this could be broken up a little bit more.
He's used to his iPad. He'll start trying to move things with my monitor.
And she's on my iPad and she starts moving, trying to have a mouse with it. But I like what you have there, but up in this area here, you can soften this even more up in here and have it a little bit more lacy. Have some leaves that are coming out here, there, that is away from the main body of the tree, because you omitted all of that big green space up here, which was not needed. And you work with this, but bring out some of those leaves so that they're like projected out from the tree. So it kind of, because we have this sudden stop here, we have just this odd shape, that having these leaves go popping out into the sky a little bit more will help soften that.
here's the, look at the photo on my phone.
Yeah, because she's got white flowers in the photo behind it, which would take away from the subject. Okay,
Okay, thank you. That was extremely helpful.
good, good. All right. This is Ann Gallagher's. Yes.
I'm seeing that it says John and Mary Hines.
Okay.
So whose is this?
Which is John and which is Mary's?
Right.
This is John. Can you hear?
Yes, I hear you fine. Good.
Get that.
What
Okay.
size piece was this done on? Do you know? What's the dimensions of the painting?
Oh, it's 11 by 18.
Okay. That is kind of a difficult space to work. Up towards the top, up in here, this could have been closed in a little bit more and reaching out just a little bit more. Because right now, I'm a bugaboo about dividing things in half, because if you take your painting here and you cut it here, okay, your painting would be a little bit stronger, because this reaches out really long and this divides, this stops at the halfway point. If this would have been heavier up in here as the photo was, and showed a little bit more smaller areas of light, that would have helped close this in a little bit more and made it heavier, which would help balance off this shape over here. And this shape over here is pretty dark. What are you using oils here, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's oil.
All right. Where was this taken?
This is just in our hometown there, just along the river.
Oh, okay. In the photograph, and I've lived on a lake for years, the wind is blowing along through here and it's rippling the waves, reflecting the light from above, because this got very heavy over here.
Yeah.
This whole triangular area. If you would have shown like it is more in the photograph, this area right here reflects what's up above it here. And then you have that wind kind of blowing through here on the water, and it picks up the light from the sky from above. I would have connected this over to here as it is in the photograph. And I would have made this a little bit less solid looking, because it has, I'm looking at the photograph here. I'm being picky on you. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Go ahead.
This area right here, up in this area right here, this could have been closed in a little bit more. So that would have allowed you to show the lighter leaves on top of the darker background here.
Yeah, okay.
And then allow this shape here is again a little bit too solid, because here it looks like a boat lift with a nice pontoon boat on it.
Yeah.
This right here could have been a little bit softer.
Okay.
But other than that, be careful about doing long, narrow things. I've done several of them when I was younger, and it was too long, and I ended up cutting it. Watercolor paper is easy to cut when you do that. I did waterfalls that were too long too, so they dropped way too long. So what is happening here is we read a painting as we read a book from left to right, and sometimes up to down or down to up. But we always want to lead the person over from the left-hand side up and around and down. And what you needed here is to bring us back around through here somehow. And that light would fly through here, would have helped that, and then another dark pattern through here, because the eye will hop with the value, the movement of the value. And overlapping shapes help strengthen the composition. But not bad. It's getting there. It just, you could fix it very easily. Very easily.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Whose photograph is this?
Patricia Bruchin.
She has the whole background as one same color, same value, same temperature, going all the way across. The sky is fine. I question the way that the limbs, can I go back? Do I go back?
Here, I got it on my
Okay.
phone.
All right. I question the limbs that are falling down the slope of the falls. They're in a V-shaped form with some overhanging things on the top. I would have rearranged that and also made the one that's far left bigger so it pulls away from these, because these are all pretty much the same shape in here. But I would have made this one here, I'm pointing again, would have made this one much larger, much heavier to carry the other ones and help balance it off. But she needs to have a little bit more froth in here, and paint or pastel or whatever you're doing, paint in the direction in which the water is falling. It hits and flies up. It hits and flies up. So this has got to hit and fly up and over. And I feel that this is too busy in here. She was starting to simulate it, but she didn't carry it through. But she's got good bones, but she needs to spend another 45 minutes on it and add more various colors within the branches and the logs coming down, because you don't want them all the same. You want this a little bit darker. Yes, it's our dog talking. You want this a little bit darker than this over here. They have to have some sort of sequence of value. So when you have value change, it's going to help move the eye. This little bit of this wall here, actually the wall comes all the way down to here, which is not apparent in the painting, but it is in the photo. But you needed to be a little bit more solid with that or leave it out. But the composition is good. She just has to rearrange these sticks a little bit more, these logs, and vary the color and value and temperature more. So it's not repetitious from this one to that one to this one to that one. All right, I remember this.
So this is Julie.
All right. Julie, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. What you need to understand is that we have an overcast day, okay? The light influences everything that you do. And you have to be careful about adjusting your intensities. Or it's getting a little bit too intense on the boats. Okay. The water, you have a curvature of the water here, of the lake, the pond, going like this. You have it a little bit too severe. It moves from here, it goes across, and then it changes direction and comes across. I'm getting the feeling that things are falling off to the right, and you have to be careful with the perspective of the pier and the perspective of the boats. The boats don't bother me because it's a little bit different. They're kind of lined up, turned over, like fish upside down, which is fine. But you could have underneath here, this shadow part of the boats that are falling away from the light, make that darker in here so that they separate a little bit more. But the pier is the biggest thing. It looks like it's falling into the water, and it should have been coming out totally almost level with everything. And then you're not seeing this much of the top of the pier with the perspective. It's up above, or it's just below your eye level line, which is how you see things. So anything that you see below the eye level line, in this case, you see a little bit of the pier, but not as much as you're showing. You kind of flip the pier up a little bit. So you have to be very careful about your perspective. I recommend a book to you if you want.
Sure.
Go to bobkrajewski.com. He has a wonderful book on making perspective. robertkrajewski.com. He has a wonderful book he wrote, Making Perspective Easy to Understand. I've worked with the man for over 41 years, and it's the best book out there because the rest of them are kind of confusing. This yellow over here, that's right over here, that tree, it's way too yellow for being that far back. I would have put that yellow over on the left-hand side. But I like the way that the water goes in, or the sand goes into the water. You could have warmed the water up a little bit more here, because as the land goes underneath the water, it's going to pick up some of that color. It just doesn't stop. It kind of, they meld together a little bit in this area here.
All right, Bob's website is Robert J. Krajecki, KRAJECKI.com.
It's a great book. I can highly recommend it. He's written 3 books. I think he's still working on his 4th. But I've worked with the man. He is a fantastic knowledge person on how to understand many, many different things. And the perspective book, we searched for, you see that?
Can you see that?
Yes.
That's the book cover.
That's the book.
I had him for first year of college, and he was an amazing instructor.
Okay, any other questions, Julie?
No, thank you very much.
I hope I wasn't too mean. But you actually did pick a difficult subject to do with the perspective of the pier, and then you had the boats lined up and in the background. So.
And I don't really paint outside, so it's a totally different ball game.
Oh yes, it is. It's a ball game, and as I said at the beginning, you don't know where to stop and start your painting, and you've got to use your pencil to draw and line things up as you would using the head measuring method if you've had any life drawing before.
Okay.
Find out where things are horizontal, slightly on an angle, but get his book.
Okay.
You're welcome. This is
Elizabeth Gear.
Elizabeth.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I really enjoyed your paintings earlier in the spring, by the way. Sort of.
The watercolor escape Saturdays.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I enjoyed doing it. It told us what day it was during that time.
And the ironic thing was I edited them and put half of them up on his YouTube channel, and you get an email each month from YouTube, and they told us that between the mid-May and mid-June, 74,000 minutes of his videos were watched.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what we said too. We're like pinching ourselves. They must have made a mistake.
It was okay. Again, as I said previous on another person's, each window you have defined 2 equally, all the way across. And my eye is attracted to these little light holes that are over here. The building color itself, the body color, should change from here all the way down. It's going to be a little bit lighter up here, and it's going to get a little bit more towards a mid-tone, a little bit more vibrant as it comes down. But learn how to indicate when you have multiples, such as windows, or whether it be pumpkin stacked or whatever it might be. Learn how to indicate things as it goes away. Here's your focal point, which is done very nicely, by the way. I really like what you got here with the lantern. But the distracting part, again, is things that don't need to be overstated, such as your windows. If you took this and cut it off here, it would get rid of the windows that you don't really need, because even in the photograph that you used, or that was used here, your windows aren't that apparent. Take a look, step back 5, 6, 7, 8 feet from your painting in between, because when you start a painting, it goes very fast, it's very quick to block in, and then you start working smaller areas and you're slowing your process down. The very last part of a painting is stepping back from your painting, looking at what you need, squint down, what do I need to define, what don't I need to define, try to leave certain things alone. And you overstated here, almost looks like you're a window salesman. Trying to make a little bit of light of it, but you have too much emphasis on the windows when this is dividing your attention away from this. This is your focal point, which you did very nice job on. Getting away from the windows. The thing about your cast shadow, I just want to give you a little lesson. You have an object that's casting the shadow, and this object is darker, what's being cast on is lighter. So you have the value of the cast shadow correct, but it's going to be a little bit darker near the object. And as it moves away, it gets lighter and softer edge, lighter value and softer edge, because you want to, there's no edge of any cast shadow that is sharp. It's sharper near the object and it'll get lighter and softer as it goes away. This, defining it like this, looks like it's cut out and pasted on. So try to keep your cast shadows so much on the softer side, and they'll be more realistic. But everything else is good. Just the windows and the cast shadow. Very nice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm just going to introduce 3 quick books and then we'll start. This is the book I was telling you about, Perspective by Robert Krajewski. Can you see that? It's a very good book. I taught with him. He was actually my department head at the academy for the last several years until we both left. And I just wanted to show these 2 books. There's one for watercolors and one for oil painters. I'm going to start with the oil one. David Curtis, I believe he's from England or Ireland. He's from England. Fantastic oil painter in here. And he also has a book on watercolors. This is David Curtis, Light Mood in Watercolor. There's some great lessons in here, but they'll also give you ideas. Even if they're above your head, you want to rise to the moment. You just don't want to keep on doing what you're doing, but always look around, take a look at what's going on, what other people are doing, and you can learn tons of things. And as I tell my students all the time, I'm just another student. I'm always learning. When you stop learning, I think that's where you just sit down and stare at the floor. But you've got to keep on learning. You want to continue climbing the mountain, because once you feel like you're at the top, there's only down from there. So the mountain can continue. Okay, we're on Mr.
It's Elizabeth Gear.
Right, so we don't need to do this one because it was from last week, and I just reposted because I'd done a rework of some of it based on last week's Critic, but we don't need to go through it again.
Okay, because we already did. Okay.
Because you already did one of mine, so.
Okay, thank you for letting us know that. So we can just move forward.
Okay. Shannon, are you with us? I've caught my students doing this in class many times by painting everything in the same direction, almost on the ground, and it looks like it's going by you at 55 miles an hour. You have to show the texture of grass, allow the paintbrush to show its strokes and change of texture and so forth. And that cast shadow is too dark. It looks like a hole in the ground. It's got to resemble the color that's outside in the light, only darker, a little bit cooler, but it can't be that dark because it looks like a hole in the canvas. I think there was a bridge in the background from what I remember. I'm not sure. But there needs to be more value change from light to dark in the background. It's too busy. You need to combine shapes and simplify. Good background is one that stays back. This is coming forward on me. In the horizontal plane there that's running across here is speeding by. We need to stop that by showing some brush strokes that interrupt that movement in different directions, because I have never seen grass move that quickly unless that vodka gimlet that you promised me a break was really. But the background here, this horizon line here, should be more level. It's going downhill a little bit too much, but I don't have a photo to compare it to. So it's kind of hard to say anything. And also more variety of color. I'm seeing yellow, green, and green. And then this darkness in here that can't be that dark. I don't know what color she used in here. It's not apparent. So actually the color is getting a little bit muddy in there. So you have to be careful with these things because everything is too soft in the background, too busy, and the foreground's going too fast. Okay.
So this is Stephen.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes. Was this done out from Rockford, the Japanese gardens?
No, it's the Chicago Botanic Gardens in, what is that, Highland Park maybe? I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
The background here is, the background trees back here are too violet looking.
Okay.
It should be more green. And that green needs to be reflected in the pond that's out front. When you're looking at a photograph, or you're looking at the subject matter, I don't know whether you were painting from a photograph or assuming it was outside, we need to have a little bit more green of what was up here down here. So you have that. Oh yes, I do recognize this. I saw people trimming these trees in the background once. It's amazing what they do. And this here, when you get to the corner of the hut, this is getting more reflected light, or it's getting more light. It looks like, it's hard to tell because it looks like the sun's coming right down on this point right here. And this here should have been a little bit bolder in color, and it, back to what you have it there, so that this comes forward. And then your darks that are up in here, the cast shadows along the eave and down here on the roof and what's underneath it, you need to get your darks darker on the building to match the dark values that you had in the water, because under here it's much darker. There's almost, you need to just get your darks darker on the building to make it more strong. And then it would be darker here, and it would get lighter less dark as it goes back. But you would have, if you would have painted this more as a mass and not individual trees showing on the top, and then painted this, you know, painted around these and then put them in while it was still wet, you can lay down the background color around these areas, drop this color in while it's still wet, and these edges would have softened up so that it's not so hard edge back there.
Okay.
All your hard edges should be right in here and a little bit on the rocks down here. But you want to keep those edges soft in the background. But this is, you got a lot of things going on in your subject matter. So it's trying to find a happy balance. And this, your edges back here on the hill, the mound, I would have painted this green all the way up to here, painted this down to there, and then let it fuse together. One of the things in watercolor, which is hard to gauge and you only get it with experience, is that two things. Your timing, when you put something down, how soon can you go back in next to it and not have it bleed, or you just want it to be a softer edge. And the other thing you can't gauge is how dark or light your value on the paint is going to dry. So you have to be careful with that. That's a learned experience. Nobody can teach you that, because the amount of water you added, the amount of pigment you added, whose pigment you're using, they all dry a little bit differently. What is the name brand of the paint you're using?
I think it's like a little Windsor, what do you call that? Windsor Newton kit, like a tiny little travel kit.
Is it cake or is it tube?
Yeah, it's cake.
You won't get the true intensity out of those. You're better off with tubes of color.
Okay.
Only use, when you're using tubes of color, use just Winsor Newton Professional. The Cotman is a student grade paint, and it has a lot of filler and chalk in it, and you won't get the intensity nor the fluidness out of the color.
I see. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. But you've got everything there. You just need to take it further.
Great, thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Nice picture, though. Oops.
Okay, you're going. Okay, one more, I think.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the photo.
Here's
Okay.
the photo for you.
Pam, hello.
Hello.
I'm looking at the photograph, and your trees need to have more of a light and dark pattern on them. They have form where you're looking at it from up on top here. This is getting most of the light, and then as the tree goes down, this is getting quite dark through here. And there's a little bit of a light edge along this cement embankment there. That could have been a little bit lighter, but all of this down here could have been darker. Green is a color, was one of the colors I didn't like as a student when I was learning. Now I love green, and I love different types of green. But you can have a green violet, you can have a green brown, you can have a red green, you can have a yellow green, and the amount of white that you're adding to it will change the temperature, because white, when you add too much white to a color, it gets chalky, but white will cool a color. So if you add too much white to it, it has a tendency of chalking out on you or getting too pale. But this area down in here could have been much darker. And as we go up towards the light, in the light is going to show quite a bit more yellow. And then the sky from here down the horizon, you have to think of it like a globe. Up here at the top, it's closer to you. It's going to be a little bit warmer, which means using more of an ultramarine blue. And as it goes down away from us, as it arcs away from us, it's going to get grayer, lighter value, and it's going to get a little bit cooler. So you may want to gray this down as it comes down and darken it a little bit more to the top. Right now it seems a little bit too flat from here to here. And then this building over here, it's kind of stuck in off the side. My choice would to be either leave it out or to pull it into the composition more so it doesn't look like a second thought. So just pull that in or leave it out completely. And then the same thing with the water. We have a shadow area back here from these trees overhanging. This could have been in shadow a little bit more, and it gets a little bit of light back there. But up front here, it's pulling in the sky color a little bit more, but you have it the same color, almost the same value all the way back. And what happens is that it flattens, it rises up towards me. And again, your edges need to be softer as they go back so that it lays down and recedes. And be careful. The thing that I did when I was playing with rocks as a student, I found a way to do rocks that looked really nice, and then suddenly every rock was the same, and all the rocks were the same size. Even if they look the same size in your subject matter, change the size a little bit. It helps the eye move. Change the color, the temperature, the texture, and that will help it move across. But the way that you laid it out is fine. It's just that building this is isolated color over here. In other words, that color doesn't appear anywhere else except way over here in a dot and here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if it isn't needed, it's more important that you leave it out than put it in.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, there's a photo.
Okay, we're a boat.
So that's Maureen.
I wish I had done a study beforehand. I think that I oversaturated it with wet and it's bumpy paper. I should have taken advantage of that and blah, blah, blah.
What kind of paper did you use?
Something Steve Putridge gave us. It's real bumpy, a lot of texture. And so I flattened it out, you know.
Called indigo paper?
I don't know the name of it, but I want to find out because I like it.
Okay, I use a lot of indigo paper, which it's highly textured. The cold press is. Okay, let's take the things that need to be adjusted that you need to think about in the future. You have a divided line going right across through here, and then you have this light area here, and then you have this line here. This is a continuation that you need to break that up. You can soften it with a damp brush, kind of blend it in here and there, especially as it stripes through these masts on the boats here. The top is fine, but right through here, soften that a little bit, because what you're doing is you have a vertical and then you have a horizontal, and they're intersecting, and it causes the eye to move to those points too easily, too fast. Almost like a tangent, but it's not a tangent. Now, the rest of the picture, down here in the boats, You did a very nice job. You kept this one in the background. You kept this one off to the left, which is a little bit darker, which is fine, which the change of values from one boat to the other boat to the other boat back here helps move the eye. If it's a real soft paper, I'm trying to see what the paper looks like. It almost looks like indigo. It's kind of has a handmade feeling paper.
Yes, yes.
Now, if you took a 250 grit sandpaper and lightly went across certain areas to create a little bit more glistening like you have in certain areas here, as you whisk the brush across the top of the surface, it leaves these little indentations without watercolor in them. You could have got a little bit more sparkle.
Oh.
But just, I'm talking about taking it very lightly across the paper and do it once, see what it does, just one swipe across. If you need to do it again, do it again, but don't go crazy with it, okay? I once showed a student how to take an X-Acto knife and scratch out little lights here and there, and he scratched out the whole thing that Helen Keller could have read the painting. And the title of the painting was "Scratch It Out When in Doubt," and he received an F on it. But I like the rest of the painting. The biggest thing that bothers me is that line that goes right through here. It divides things up too strongly. So be careful of that. Step back from your painting more. Take a look at what's there. Decide, is that right? Is it wrong? If it's wrong, fix it. If it's right, you leave it alone. But
you know what? One other thing I am critical of myself on this is that I always want the painting to be better than the photograph, but I think that the photograph is better than the painting in this case.
I will tell you, no, the painting is better than the photograph.
Well, you're going to show the photograph? It's right there. You got it.
I'm looking right at the photograph down here.
You are? Okay.
And I have to disagree with you 100%. The painting has character, it has feeling, it has depth.
Tells a story.
It tells more of a story, but the biggest bugaboo I have with it is that continuous dark line of value goes all the way across. You take a damp brush and go in there and soften it a little bit. I mean, the rest of the painting is wonderful. Don't be so hard on yourself. In paintings altogether, there's parts and pieces you like, there's parts you don't like, and those parts you do like will eventually grow with more painting experience. And you have a real good painting going here, except you have this dark right through here. If you can get the rest of it looking like this and like this and like that, where you show variance of value change, you'll be much better off. Fix that one spot from here to here.
All right. Thank you very much. And nice to have met you.
You too. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Whoops, too far off. There we go. Okay, this is
Mine.
your-
Virginia. This is the view of an incredibly awesome construction site right in front of my apartment, and I love it. But anyway, I'll let you talk about it, and then I'll talk about it.
These are workers down in here.
Yeah.
Painting what you see and what you should paint is always three different things. You have to remember that. First thing, this water tower back here, I would have pulled it over to about here. Okay? Trying not to paint exactly what you're seeing. I would have showed a little bit more texture here around the truck and the tractor there. And I would have shown a lot more texture in this area right here to help move the eye. It's a little bit too flat. But I like the way that this is orchestrated over here, your background. This is the background of Nashville, I take it?
Yes.
You don't have anything sticking up in the middle, but what I'm looking at, when you pull some things closer together, like the water tower to here, it acts more as a unit with this. Okay, but I see this, this, this. If this comes in here, right about here, that angle of that part of the tower falls right about there and goes up and right there. But I would also lighten the water tower. You got this dark darkness up in a light area, and your eye is always attracted to contrast of value, okay, and detail, and of course intensity of color. But this darkness up here, even though it was that dark by studying it, take it and soften it. But you should move it over to here. You still have, this is oil, you can paint right over that.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Which is kind of nice. The background is fine. I like the way that you kind of just abbreviated this background here with trees or whatever is in there in the hole. And this is very nice over here. This is not too bad. This doesn't bother me. It was this up here, that darkness this needs to be moved over and this needs to be lightened. But
Okay.
texture in here and some texture in there. Even with oils, you could take a toothbrush and go.
I'm going to try that. That'd be great. And so my frustration is this is a 9x12, and I feel like I'd much rather be doing this, you know, as a much larger painting, because then my brush is so small. And
Yeah, usually smaller paintings are more difficult to do in many cases, where larger paintings are a little bit easier to orchestrate. I've had people ask me, can you do that painting half the size for half the price? I love that. I go, absolutely not. I will charge you about 3/4 of the price because they're harder to do. And it won't be the same as the big one. I don't repeat the same thing all the time. I've painted the Wisconsin River that I showed you probably 24 times in 24 different ways with different light. I go there every New Year's Day and I take a picture of it. The water's higher, lower, the snow's more, the snow's less, the snow on the branches, there's no snow on the branches. The water overflowed over across the road. There's all sorts of different things, or fog rolls in. You never see it the same way. Revisiting the same subject matter is very good because you can see what's happening from the last time you saw it. But I'd like everything else. It's just I move that tower over. That's the big thing, and add some texture in here.
okay. Thanks very much.
Okay. All right. We'll go on to the next. And this person is
Karen.
Me.
Who's me?
Karen.
Karen.
Oh, I don't see Karen.
Hi, Dale.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Have I met you before down at the Palette? Are you down there?
At Main Street Art with Frankie.
That's right. I recognize you from someplace. I teach at so many different places, I lose track of where the faces belong.
Right. So this is downtown Barrington.
I can see, I'm not familiar with downtown Barrington too much. I've been downtown there only a couple times. I like everything about it. I like your shadows. I like what you've done here. I like the way that you handled the sky. Okay.
Really? That's good. Because that was a last ditch effort to get that sign to pop.
Yes, and I noticed that you went up and around this foliage here somewhat, but it's not bothersome because you went right around it this way. The one thing and only thing that bothers me is the light pole.
Oh, I struggled with that because in actuality, it was right next to the Catlow sign.
Well,
and then I thought it needed another vertical. So that's why I put it back in.
Left it out completely. This acts as your vertical, and I would have moved the tree into where the beginning of the light pole is because it's getting too close to being a tangent over here.
Right.
That is my only bugaboo about the painting. It's beautiful.
Well, thank you.
The variations of color, the way that you simulated the windows very simply, didn't try to overwork them. The way that you did this underneath here in shadow, you didn't overdo the doors because we have a tendency of scrutinizing every little thing as we draw it. And then we have to paint it as we draw it, but we have to learn how to abbreviate things. The sign is fine. It comes down. It doesn't read like it's, neon. It just reads very nicely, softly, not overdone. But I would have moved this into here, taken out the light pole, and let the tree act like by itself. I like this addition of the tree up in here. And the sky is fun.
Thanks.
There's a nice movement coming up.
Originally, it was just cobalt blue with a little bit of rose in it, and it was just flat, and the sign didn't stand out. So when I got home, I said, aha. So I just threw color on.
It worked. But the thing, even if you were doing the pole, as it goes up here and up and around, you have it the same value, same color all the way down.
Right. Change it.
You have to change the value, the temperature, the intensity, something as it goes up or across in front of you. But it's too dark. It's taken away from the rest of it.
Can she lift it? Can she lift some of that dirt?
Try lifting it.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to try. I will.
Small brush, add a little bit of water, let it sit there, count to 10, 15 seconds, take a paper towel and start pulling up some of it.
Right.
Finishes.
Right.
And then go to that building and talk to the owner and tell him he needs to buy this.
Yes.
I
Exactly.
don't know that he's going to have 2 pennies to rub together to buy anything, unfortunately.
Oh, that's
That's one of the reasons why I painted it, because I don't know how long it'll be there.
that's
One of those things.
We're running the same thing in our small little town here.
Yeah.
We have no that Chinese restaurants haven't.
We have 2 Chinese restaurants that these people have disappeared.
They just put brown paper on the windows and left.
That's too bad.
Awful. And the Fannie Mae candies are starting to drop like flies around here too.
Well, thank you for your critique.
You're welcome. Okay,
So this is Richard.
Richard,
Hello, Dale.
how are you?
I'm
You-
good. Thank
look-
you.
You look a little green tonight.
Yes.
Where was this picture at? Is there?
No.
Okay, no
Good
phone.
question. It was
Was it out of your head?
up around Wilmette Beach, but something happened. Fantasy took over.
Well, I like it. It has a little bit of Turner feeling to it. I'm assuming that these are people down in here.
No, there are no people in my paintings.
This is like a child right here laying in the sand.
This is a peopleless earth.
These people have entered your painting then. I like what you have here, except that your light over here, here, and here is a little bit too strong because you want your focal point to be more in here. Now,
good point.
The other thing about focal points, I always have discussions with students that have been told you always must have a focal point. You don't always have to have a focal point. You can have points of interest that lead the eye around the composition, places where they can rest. But I feel that this is all too light here. And I get a feeling that it's snow. And I know it's not.
Yeah.
You needed to add more color to that.
Okay.
Talked about that once before in somebody else's painting. Before grabbing the white, grab a lighter value color and just add a little bit of white to it.
Okay.
Something more desirable. I did a self-portrait when I was a college student. Nobody told me about light in the studio where warm, cool, whatever. I was painting underneath the warm light and I was using too much white with the pigment. And it looked fine underneath the warm light. I was warm enough. On the way down to Chicago to bring it to class, somewhere on the way I suddenly died because I got down there and I was very pale and chalky looking. And I was taking white and adding it. And this here with the rest of your painting looks out of sequence. The rest of the painting is nice. Got soft edge, things get cooler, grayer as they go back. But this here, you need to fix this. It looks like the aliens have landed and they're shooting a light through. You want a soft.
Can do, Dale. Can do.
Yeah, the rest of the painting's nice. Nothing else to do. It looks really wonderful.
It looks like moonlight.
To me, it has a little bit of a dreamy effect. And
I've done a lot of dreaming lately.
We all have.
Thank you, Dale. That was very good. I'm Thank you.
I like your accents of the color here and there too. So good job.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay.
There you go. And one more.
One
I've got the
So this is Lori.
Lori.
Hi.
Hi, Lori. How you doing?
Okay, this I did this in like an hour, so I really feel it's more of a study. I'll just say that to begin. It wasn't what I had in my head.
Right. That's fine. I understand that. For an hour, I think it's pretty good. The same thing I told one or two other people, watch your cast shadows here. They're a little bit too dark. They have to resemble some of the color that's out here, but when you get them too dark, it looks like a hole in the painting. So be careful.
So what would I mix some of the
It looks like you had burnt sienna or red oxide here.
red oxide. So would I mix the red oxide in more to that shadow to
A little bit. Take the red oxide and add a little bit of, I would say, some of the little bit of the blue with it, like cobalt blue. I'm talking about a tad, and add just a little bit of the green that's over here into it, near it, and as it goes out, it's going to get softer and lighter as it goes out. You've got the cast shadow muddled here, and I can see that on the photograph, it's the reflection of the leaves and so forth that got the kind of abstract look to it. You added too much white in the middle. It should be more color.
Yeah, it's too much white, right? Okay.
And then I'm going to call it a wishing well because I don't know what it is right now. This could have been warmer, and white objects, especially white objects, will reflect all the color around it. Black objects or dark objects will absorb the color around it. So this needed to have, even though that it has a little bit more of a yellow or a yellow raw sienna look to it, I go according to the painting because this is the reality that we're looking at. This color out here should have been inside of this, tints of it and so forth.
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. So from the photo, I did this on canvas paper, which I wouldn't recommend. So I did it as a vertical, but I'm wondering, I really wanted to get the depth that was in the photograph. Would it have been better, even though it seems vertical, to have done it horizontal? If you look at the photograph, you know what I mean?
Yes, I see what you're talking about. We have this vertical, we have this vertical, and then we have this vertical.
Yeah.
If they have worked better horizontal, and then you add on a little bit more off to the right or the left. So I would have tried it as a horizontal to see what the difference is. You can still do it from this study because you got all the good bones here. You know what's going on. You got a good light and dark pattern here, but watch your cast shadows. If you take, I'm looking at the picture now, and there's a lot of blue in these cast shadows here. Can you see that in the photograph? Or, yeah. But the rest of it looks pretty good.
Okay, some more blue in the shadows.
Yeah, get some more blue in the shadow, a touch of green, because there's a lot of green out here. And then this door has a lot more color in it than what you're giving it credit for. It looks like a blue-green that's in here. And you again, as some other people have, taken the white first instead of the color. Take the color first and add a little bit of white to it. Don't take the white first and add color to it. So you want to show color in here because this is getting too chalky. This needs more color back here because it has to reflect the color that's on and around it.
I have another question about bright greens.
Yes.
So when you want to make a green brighter, I added yellow, but it just seemed to get too yellowy. Any advice about how to brighten them without getting overly yellow?
What greens are you using on this painting?
Well, I was mixing it with I was ultramarine blue with like a lemon yellow was my green mixture.
All right. Now the ultramarine blue is a warmer blue. Cobalt is a little bit cooler. And then you have the cerulean or manganese blue, which is your cooler blue. In the light, you're going to use a warmer blue with the ultramarine. So if you take, instead of what was the yellow again?
Like, I think it was like either a cad light or a lemon yellow. I can't remember which one.
Take a cadmium yellow medium, which is warmer. The yellow light or pale is a cooler yellow. Take the yellow medium and add that, and you'll get a little bit of variance with that. And then take a little bit of something like burnt sienna and mix it with the green a little bit as it goes back, and it will gray it down because red is the complement of green. But this back here could be a little bit toned down and lighten up these areas up front here. Because this is, when it's this intense and this lights come forward and darks recede, you wanted this lighter here and this lighter here and a little bit on this side over here to pull this away from the background back here. But try adding the yellow medium with the ultramarine blue. Start off with the yellow medium first and add a little bit of ultramarine blue to it to get your desired value, intensity, and the yellow green that you're looking for.
Thank you so much.
But other than that, try it as a horizontal, see what happens. You know, you can
It will. I think it might be, it'll break all that verticalness to it.
You've got a lot of verticals going on there.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So this is Sharon.
Sharon,
Hello,
how are you tonight?
I'm real good. How are you, Dale?
Good. We
This
got
was a quickie too. This was after work, about 45 minutes in the heat. And I don't, usually use watercolor, but I decided to pull another water media in. So I did this in acrylic. I'm normally an oil painter.
okay. Well, it's nice to try different things. I'm not against that at all. Watch your edges in the background here, too sharp. Good background that stays back. Now, the thing with, you used a lot of wonderful colors, but used too many wonderful colors. So it's something that my eye doesn't know where to go. It's very static. I love the color variations, but things need to be toned down, especially along the edge of the border here. So it brings your eye more into a middle area, whether it be here or over here. My focal point is what I'm looking at would be up in this area a little bit more, as long as it's away from the edge, but up in here. But you have these bright colors down here, you have the same bright colors over here and over here, okay? You can't have the same everywhere. Things have to be subdued in some areas and lightened in other areas. The color in the background back here is fine. The tree is fine. I would have worked up this area a little bit more, but along the edge, anything along the edge, don't overstate. Your eye will go out of the composition, especially off over here. But if we move this in a little bit,
Make it darker on that side. On the right side, it was in shade, and the left side, it was in light.
yeah. And what you have to do is, you are the entertainer. You're going to tell the viewer where you want them to go. So this even being more light here, you need to downplay that. And this would be right up in here with the bridge and everything, would be a stronger focal point in this case. This down here is kind of an abstract pattern that could be subdued. But if you brought the tree into here, right about here, and move this over and let the bridge fall out the left side, you'd be a natural lead-in for the eye to come over to the focal point and then down through here. But even though that was lighter, you could still play it down. Don't feel like the scene is telling you what to do. You have to tell the scene what you want it to do. You're the entertainer, remember. You're giving the guidance. But I love this area up in here. This is really nice in this area. But I'm divided. I go back and forth, back and forth. And when you divide the viewer's attention, it becomes static somewhat.
Mm.
But you're not afraid of using color, which I'm usually pushing students to use more color. I need to would pull you back a little bit.
Okay.
It's good.
Yeah, but there's a lot of wildflowers in bloom, so that's what inspired me. It was just kind of a field of wildflowers going crazy on either side.
Yeah, we went a little on the wild side, but that's okay. You need to do that to see what it looks like, definitely. And once you find out that, okay, this wasn't working over here, I won't do that again, because you're dividing this to this. And plus, we have the creek as a natural division right there. So be careful.
Should I take the left side and maybe try to glaze over it with a lighter color?
No.
Go into the yellows and lighten them up and gray them down a little.
I would try it again. Take this as your study and take the bridge off over here, move the tree in, and work this area up and kind of diffuse this area. But I would try it again using this as your study. Lots of times I'll take a study that I've done and I'm seeing things that are wrong with it. And when I tell the students, do a value study, then do a little color rough, and then you do the final painting, they're not rubber stamping the idea, they're changing it and scrutinizing more and molding it more. So when you get to the final, they have a better answer. And I think you've got a good thing going here, but I would try it again. Use this for your study.
Okay,
Nice though. I like it.
thanks.
Has Clayton got one? I want to see Clayton.
No, not today. I'm sorry.
Oh, I wanted to scrutinize your painting, Clayton.
I could hold one up to the camera. No, let's go ahead.
I know how you paint. You're fine. Okay.
So this is Anne Gallagher.
Anne Gallagher. I know an Anne Gallagher somewhere in my past. I think she was in my watercolor class down there. The trees are the separation between the trees, the negative space, even though she's got a little broken up, too much the same. It would have been better if this didn't start down here, started inside the picture plane and put these two trees closer together. I question her perspective on the little structure here and the house. I don't have a picture of it, I don't believe. But she should try to get her perspective a little bit clearer and allow the tree to hang down through things. Okay, if she's not here, let's go on, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay, here's the photo it came from.
Okay, we have Linda Brown.
Yes, hello.
Hi, how are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Okay, we left the house out, which was fine. Would have gotten too busy probably. This up in here is a little bit too yellow.
Yes.
And this here is a little bit too yellow, but you have nice dappled light on the ground that works fairly well. You have the movement of the sky from dark to light to a little bit grayer. Your background is a good background, just stays back. The only thing that bothers me is that all this same yellow green up through here, a little bit more variety, not a lot, but a little bit more variety would have been nice. But watch your tree distance equalness.
Yeah.
Put one closer to the other. The way that you could actually fix this is to put another tree, not in the middle, but closer to this one that's in the middle or closer to this one that's off to the side to help divide that up, because these three are too equally separated.
Like a sapling?
Yeah, a sapling, nothing that's this heavy, just to break it up a little bit more. And then you could show a little bit more form back in this particular area. As it hits the ground where less light is showing, as the light comes down, you can put a few dark accents down in this area here and here.
Okay.
A couple little ones in here just to help create that underneath part where the land is and the bushes coming down meeting it.
Okay.
It's nice.
Thank you. What colors would you suggest for varying I know the yellow, when I was outside, it didn't seem so yellow. I came back and I went, ouch. But what other colors would you suggest to give it variety?
What colors were you using?
Ultramarine blue, cad light, or yeah, cad yellow light. What else? A little quinacridone red, I think.
You could have added a little bit more of the reddish brown to it to grade a slight bit in certain areas, and only show a little. I mean, you can leave some of this here, but you need to break it up more. These areas, you see this area here, this can be separated through here, maybe just a slight bit. This area left alone, but right in here, you need to break this up a little bit more. This is fine down in here, but my big thing is right here. This is on fire.
I know. I was trying to have a focal point and I didn't do it.
Still have points of interest. You don't need to have a focal point. This, if you tone this down first, I would then re-examine if I need to touch anything up here.
Okay. I think the yellow on the ground needs to be muted as well, don't you think?
No, not really, because it is unifying with what's up in here and a little bit back in here. I think that the ground is fine. It feels like it's sloping away, and then it starts laying out a little bit more. You have a nice movement away from the tree that they're up on a mound. But I would start with this and tone this down and see what the rest of this looks like. You may, because once you touch one thing, you're creating a different relationship. You may not have to toy with this at all.
Okay.
Okay.
But I like the rest of it.
So helpful. Thank you so much.
All right. Deborah, are you here?
I am. I'm here.
Okay. Hi, Deborah. How are you tonight?
Good. Good. How are you?
We didn't use the background of the building at all, I'm taking it?
I'm sorry.
You didn't use the background with the buildings and so forth. You just left that out.
Yeah, I left it out. I started out with it, but it didn't work out too well, so yeah, I wiped it out.
Everything we do is kind of a journey and experiment, so you have to kind of go with what you got. I suggest when you paint the background, leave this tree out and allow this green to flow into the background when you try to paint around a few of these flowers here. And then your green is too green. It should be more yellow green, more light. You want to try to paint more from abstract pattern in watercolor at the beginning, or any kind of painting. Look at the abstract qualities of what's there, the way that it goes, because you have this too round here, the whole thing, when it this kind of goes out here, and then it goes in and up, and then goes up, and then it reaches out over here. You have this thing too neatly trimmed to make it look more natural. And then you added the other tree in, kind of coming up through here. But this in here, you have to watch how much you're leaving, and you could have gone in very lightly with a yellow green, because these flowers are yellow green, they're not really white. But you could have gone in with this color right here and painted this very abstract pattern in here, and then put the background, allow the background to bleed into it after waiting maybe 30 seconds, because timing of this is very important. And then go back in and put in some of the darks, but your darks in here are too dark, they're too definite. They need to be softer, lighter, airier. But try it again. I mean, try different ways of attacking it. I would paint this area green, very abstract, and while that starts to dry, then put this background, let it bleed into a little bit, and let it do what it wants to do, and you'll end up with more of a free-flowing shrub.
I think this is the photo that's supposed to go.
All right, yeah, I saw the photograph. Okay.
Hello, I'm here.
Whose is this here?
I'm Elena.
How are you tonight?
I'm good tonight. How are you?
Good.
Thank you.
You're not afraid of using color, which is good. You have a lot of things going on in there. You need to simplify. You have flowers. You have a squirrel. If you would have left the flowers out and painted more of just the fence in here, left the squirrel out, tell them to, left this post out, and just painted these shrubs here a little bit crossed through here with the shrubs, and had this up in here, it would have been working as a better painting. But you need to put some of the, you have the branches dark and you have the buildings light, which is reversed from the photograph, which is fine. But
this is not photograph. This is my.
now you need to simplify all of this in here
Mhm.
and make the fence kind of wander through here very lightly, but not with a definite line. And it would have worked that much better. But it got very busy with this. This is like a secondary actor in a movie that's trying to take over from the primary actor here. So you have to be careful with that.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, you're right.
And your sky is a little bit too intense.
Too bright?
Yes, too bright. And this can be, these shrubs down here can be toned down, because this up here is your focal point, but you got to get rid of that squirrel and the tulips. The squirrel is out of proportion with the rest of the picture, and so are the tulips. They're too big.
Too big. Mhm.
No. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Shafali, I love that name.
Beautiful
Hi,
name.
Dale.
Hi. Are you here with us in picture?
No, my camera's not on, but I'm here.
This was a tavern someplace, I take it?
It's like a restaurant. It closed down, I think, like a year or two ago.
This is watercolor, I'm assuming.
Yep.
You were overworking the side of the building. You were going back and lifting up things too much instead of allowing the watercolor to flow and move as it should. And when you're working in watercolor, you're working from light to dark. So you're putting down the patterns of dark very light to understand them. So if you go too dark, you end up lifting up too much. And you end up with a lot of this scratchiness, which right now, this is very busy because of you lifted way too much everywhere. So you have to be careful on how much you're lifting. And the car back here looks like it has trees growing out of it. You could have omitted the car completely. But what you're drawing on the building here, this is all falling down, unless it actually is falling down. Try to get a little bit better accurate drawing on what you're doing, but don't rely on lifting the watercolor to change the value. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Oh, this is Rich Weber.
Okay. I like his background back here. It's falling back. This tree is fine because it's not coming forward. The middle ground and things coming out of it, such as this branch or part of a fallen tree, is fine. The foreground is fine. It just kind of has a fantasy look to it. The thing that bothers me is that the trees feel like they're made of rubber. Okay. Again, they need to move and jut in different directions. Some trees will have a hard movement. The limbs at the bottom don't really do this. They, down towards the bottom, they come out almost horizontally. As you go up the tree, they will move up, reaching for the sun a little bit more. And he's got them looking too much like rubber, so that they're kind of floppy. If the trees were stronger in form, it would have been a lot better. And then dry brush in the sequence of leaves and so forth on the branches to make them stronger, darker, so that they pull away from this here, because your darks are darker nearest us and your lights are lighter. He needed to make this stronger in here with the leaves, but to show a little bit more structure of the tree would have been best. The rest of the painting is nice and loose. It's fun, but the trees are the things that bother me. The rest of the tree should have been handled like this movement of this branch and outgrowth here. But these here are too rubbery. Okay. Okay,
Oh, so this is Bobby.
Bobby Puttridge. Okay. I like the way she changed the value through the side of the buildings here and the cast shadow. This bothers me up here. Either leave it out or do something different with it. I don't know what the photo looked like. Do we have a photo? No photo. And things about equaling one another. This is identical to this. It needs to change color, temperature, give it a little bit of texture, something. But when you have identical things that are in opposite ends of the painting here, your eye goes back and forth all the time. This is fine up here. This is fine down here. I like the woman on the balcony, but this one here should have been the focal point. This is dividing the focal point. So you don't want to do that. Try to lessen this and keep this the way it is. Everything else looks pretty good.
So the last one is Marcy Calkins.
I'm here.
We got a lot of blue here.
I think I'm in a Picasso blue period.
Okay.
I'm actually working in a limited palette again. I ordered Holbein Duo, so I'm just playing with these, mixing colors. And
I really try to have students work with color to see what it does, to see how it reacts. You could have graded your color down a little bit more back in here, but overall, it's not bad compositionally. The thing that bothers me is this bench. The bench is on the edge. It will lead the eye out. That bench should have been moved up here, right about here, right across from this fountain area, so that you have things moving across. But that bench down in the corner, your eye leads to the corner and you fall out. So you have to keep the viewer in here. But I always encourage the students to use limited color to see how it reacts and what you can do with it, how you can push and pull the values. What were the limited colors that you were using?
I use the 3 primary warm, 3 primary cools. And then I generally throw in like a sienna and a white.
Okay. You could have used a little bit more sienna, burnt sienna, I think you're talking about.
Right.
Just to help gray things down underneath these trees a little bit more and in the background here. But this yellow up in here, this yellow is fine. As you travel up and over, that leads the eye out. So you want to diminish that as it goes out. And you could have darkened this tree in to help stop the eye and bring it up and over, and darken this area of the tree to push this back. Because if you get your darks dark enough, your lights will seem light enough. But if your darks are not dark enough, your lights will never seem light enough. So you try to get this a little bit darker. Right now, the darkest things are the bench, this area here, and that bench that should have been moved up here.
I had that darker and then it started to come forward on me. So then I pushed it back again. So
I would have taken this bench out and moved it up or left it out completely. But darken this tree and leave this tree alone, because you don't, if you emphasize this, your eye will go up and out of the composition.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But this is fine. Even add a few more branches in here to break up this tree looking back at me with his eyes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Little things like that. But other than that, I like the way the blues and the blue greens came out. It's kind of a fun painting.
Okay. Thank you, Dale.
Welcome.
Great. So that was the last one. I appreciate you taking a few extra minutes past 9 o'clock. Thank you so much. This has been just wonderful, wonderful time. We're getting so many comments.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Dale.
Thank you, Virginia.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And
Thank you.
Dale, we will send out an email with some of the points and those books that you recommended to everyone. But thank you and good luck with your opening. I'm going to be there virtually from Nashville for sure.
Okay, wonderful. All right, everybody have a good evening and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dale.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good evening.